Good morning, everyone, and welcome to PainChek's Investor Webinar. I'm David Tasker from Chapter 1 Advisors, and I'll be your host today. Today's session will provide an update on PainChek's June quarter performance and recent operational progress, while also giving shareholders and investors an opportunity to meet the leadership team that will guide the company through its next phase of growth. Before we begin, a few brief housekeeping points. Today's presentation contains information that has previously been released to the ASX. The webinar is being recorded and a replay will be made available after the event. You can submit questions at any time using the Q&A function, and we will address as many of those as possible during the presentation. We have received a number of questions prior to the webinar, and we will be looking to group those into themes to give you an opportunity to hear a number of those questions answered. Joining us today are Bianchi, PainChek's Non-Executive Chair, Andy Hoggan, Interim CEO and Chief Operating Officer, Karen Holzberger, who commences as Chief Executive Officer on the 17th of August, and David Allsopp, General Manager and Head of Business Development for North America. Lil, you joined as PainChek Chair in May. To begin, could you briefly frame where you believe the business is today and what you want investors to take from this update?
Well, the great news is that we have excellent retention rates within the business. What that signifies to investors is that we have a product that is satisfying customers' needs and they're coming back for more. We have a good pipeline of opportunities, so the product is meeting a wide need, we know that. And there's lots of talent within the company. So they're all great starting points. But some of the things I have learned is that we need a lot more focus on sales, a lot more focus on the US, understanding that market. And we're really happy that we have a new CEO and a new US focus with Karen, and also the promotion of David.
Thanks, Lil. Andy, could you now take us through the June quarter performance and the operating position of the business?
Yeah, thanks, David. Yeah, I guess there's two stories that really stand out to me from this slide. The first one is the numbers along the top are a representation of how we've done a great job of condensing the time between contracting our clients and collecting cash. We've made some great strides in this space, and you can see that from the implemented ARR and implemented licenses numbers, both for this last quarter and also the previous quarter. So we've had some real great momentum since December in that space, and that obviously flows through to the customer receipts as well. So that's the first one. I think the second story that really stands out to me is the Bolt & Clark example under the footprint and retention part there. Bolt & Clark joined us as a pilot quite some time ago. That pilot was successful, and then we went on to roll out across another 40-odd homes across that large client. And in a recent merger and acquisition, they actually doubled in size, and we've been given permission to roll out across the remaining sites. So now they're going to become one of our largest global clients. And what that, I think, sends a message around is that we have a proven track record of winning large clients through pilots and getting them to fall in love with our product and then to roll it out across their entire organization. So when you have a look across to the right-hand side, the fact that we're starting to do that with aged care in Canada and Silverado in the US, which is a couple of great deals that David and the team have won just recently on paid pilots, we can actually give investors confidence that we have a track record of converting those clients into really large paying enterprise customers. So that's the kind of two stories that really stand out to me, David, from this slide.
Okay, now moving on to our next slide, David. I'll let you take care of this one.
Sure, thanks, David. Just following on from what Andy said, I think the significance team of Silverado and aged care are not to be underestimated. Silverado are one of the most prestigious and revered in a positive way memory care providers across the United States. They are the only US provider that has won the Alzheimer's Disease International Accreditation, which is a huge achievement too. So very much respected, and extremely influential across the US market. Aged care as well, they're one of the largest aged care providers across Canada, extremely influential as well, renowned for great care. And to Andy's point, we've got a great history and a track record of converting these large paid pilots into fully commercial rolled out clients, with Bolton Clark and, say, United Care Queensland just been a couple of examples of that done in previous markets. Now, we all know that integrations are key to the success of our product being really sticky. We've done a great job globally in this part. We're really making great progress in the United States right now as well with our Alice integration. That's getting very close to being deployed in production to get our first cyber sites using our product in market, but also we're working on a significant other amount of integration deployments as well. So Alice and Matrix Care and Yardi are all slated for Q2 and should be very much going live in very much hopefully early in the Q2 quarter. But we've also made recent contact with ACH and August Health. This is significant because these providers really focus on that assisted living memory care part of the market, with point-click care really dominating that skilled nursing market across Canada and the United States. So across these integration partners we're working with, we will have access to, if not all, the majority of the United States market through their EHR platforms. And now, Andy, I think you're probably a bit more better positioned to talk about Mayo Clinic, so I'll pass that back over to you to give that some light.
Thanks, David. Yeah, look, just a very quick update for everyone. So as everyone's aware, we've been accepted into the Mayo Clinic program, which is really important for us in a number of different ways. One, the Mayo Clinic has an amazing brand across not only the US, but globally. And to be able to partner with them in this very structured program really does open up our pipeline and our opportunities in the US market, both in particular the acute sector as well. And so, yeah, we're actually making some very good progress and hope to actually get some more updates on that by the end of the year.
So, as you can see, we do have new leadership, and I want to share a little bit about what that actually means. Andy, who has been doing a great job as our interim CEO and has helped to focus on a number of opportunities, has helped us to be really razor sharp in terms of our use of cash. Will continue as Chief Operating Officer across the company as a whole when Karen joins us on the 17th of August. And we're really pleased that Karen came along today to introduce herself before she's actually started with the company. So thanks for that, Karen. David, we've already mentioned, who is leading the charge in North America on sales. But also, we are taking a very sharp look at our technology. It's the bedrock of our company. And we have to make sure that it's focused, it's prioritized, that we spend money wisely on our technology, that we are not over-engineering our products, but it's very, very customer-facing. So we have a CTO recently joined who is taking a sharp look across all those issues. So really delighted with the new team. A lot of expertise, a lot of knowledge in there. And, the points that are before is what it's all about. Andy has already said that as well as winning sales, we have to be much faster at implementation, getting the revenue flowing. We need to take a wider look at how we market. Now, that's one of the reasons why we selected Karen, because she's got a real depth in understanding what market means, understanding the sector, not just talking to the sector. Andy and David have already been making strides on restructuring our sales. We want to be utterly focused on our short-term execution on the pipeline, no distractions. And with that, we have realigned our incentive structures so that people get rewarded for performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Lil, and thank you, team. I don't want to miss Karen, so I might just ask you a quick question, Karen, before we go into the formal
Of course.
Q&A. This is your public unveiling to the shareholders and investors in Australia. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, but more importantly, what attracted you to this opportunity?
I'm so excited to be part of PainChek as their CEO. A little bit about myself first, and then why I'm so excited about the opportunity. I, I have been in the
Karen,
US
just hold
Karen,
on.
healthcare market, bringing products to market, the outpatient, the acute setting. I'm going to go off video and continue to talk. Maybe
Yeah,
that will
that's what I
help.
was going to suggest.
Is that a little bit better?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's
Thank you.
better.
Sorry about that. So no, what I'm so excited about is just the opportunity that PainChek has in the market, whether it's in the US or globally, and bringing those solutions to market. There is such a need for what PainChek can bring to give voice to residents and people who need to be able to speak about their pain but aren't able to. So we can be able to assess, collect that data, and help drive what they talk about in the US market, the quadruple aim, whether it's quality outcomes, patient outcomes, financial outcomes, or what is not talked about as much, but the burden that the healthcare providers are seeing today by taking care of what they love to do most is those patients and those residents in the long-term healthcare facilities. And so my deep expertise in the US healthcare market and bringing products to market, whether it's about referenceability and commercialization at scale, and the partnerships that I will have with David and Andy, bringing the products to market is what I'm so excited about.
Thank you, Karen. We now will jump straight into Q&A. We have received a number of questions both during the short presentation, but also prior to today's webinar. So as I said, we're not going to read every question out verbatim. We will group as many as we possibly can together because there are certain themes that I think we need to focus on. But Lil, firstly to you, you've been in the chair for almost 3 months. What did you find when you joined PainChek, and what convinced you that the underlying commercial opportunity remains compelling?
Well, I've talked a little bit about that in the intro, David, in terms of, retention, pipeline, the talent. Some of the things that we have done as a board quite quickly is to plug some gaps and to set more focus. So already talked about the new team. But, if you have a product that has a lot of opportunity and a lot of ways of going to market, it can be easy to get a bit distracted and be, not have a clear focus on the short to mid-term. We are utterly now focused on what we need to deliver on the immediate priorities. And with that, there's been a restructuring around sales, a refocus around sales. Andy has been doing a lot of work around operational efficiency. Now, part of that is getting the right people in the right positions, doing the right things. But also it's having a much closer eye on our costs. And we are now going to be a very, very cost-focused organisation.
And what's changed most materially in the board's expectations of management?
Clear KPIs, which I'm not going to talk to today because Karen is not joining us for another week. And, that is very much for the board to work through with the CEO. But we will want very, very clear KPIs, and they'll be focused on our overriding objection, which is to increase sales, increase revenue, and get ourselves our immediate goal, our first quarter of being cash flow neutral or positive.
Andy, question that's come through for you. Implemented ARR grew 5.9% during the quarter, but global customer retention was 85%. What are some of the key factors underlying attrition across the markets?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think there's some nuance in the numbers. So I think one of the things to call out is that in our more mature market here in ANZ, we've actually achieved retention greater than 90% for some time. And I think for me personally, in overseeing global operations, that is our North Star for all of our markets, is to reach that target. And I think we've been able to prove that stickiness in the ANZ markets. That's the first point. To the other part of your question, which is what causes attrition, well, there are different factors, David. I'd say one of them is that we do tend to have a very strong track record at the larger end of town with our enterprise sales and our very large clients. And, there's some reasons for that. I think one is that they're more immune to some of the budgetary pressures faced by the broader aged care sector. So I do believe that we are very strong in that part of the market. And then, there are other factors at play as well. Things like amalgamation. We know there's a lot of movement in the health sectors at the moment. And so we can lose a client from time to time if they are acquired by a non-PainChek client. But of course, our key goal is then to work with our sales teams to make that acquire a PainChek client. So it does open up opportunities for us to actually go in and actually try and win that as a PainChek client.
David, a few questions here, not unsurprisingly, on Sabra and the agreement there. Provides access to up to 20,000 beds across 329 facilities, but only the first 2 deployments have been secured. What must happen to convert that access into live licenses at scale?
Yeah, thanks, David. I think I've put this into 3 key buckets. I think I touched on it previously on the call. Those integration partnerships are really key. We've seen this across our other global markets back in ANZ in the UK, getting those set up and established so we can then accelerate with those partners. But that integration is so key to our ongoing success and, to Andy's point, retention of our product as well. Exciting that we've got essentially across all of Sabra's portfolio, all the different EHR providers are now in flight, and some coming to the pointy end of actually going live, which will help us accelerate more clients to more sales and getting people on board and getting that revenue recurring within the business. I think the second key point there is the ongoing co-promotion, David. Sabra's got a great leadership team. We've got great relationships and great support, and they're committed to continue co-promoting PainChek. They believe in our product. They believe in what we're doing, and that consistent messaging coming as more of a partnership lens around what we're doing for the operational providers underneath them as a REIT. The third key bucket there, I think, would be the further incentives. And pleased to inform everyone that we had some great discussions last week, and Sabra as the REIT have agreed to provide more incentives as of last week to their operators to sign up with PainChek. I think that will see a steady flow of memory care providers. That's been the main focus initially, David. I think Sabra identified, and with PainChek support, that the need for our product that is inarguably in those memory care providers' homes. They've got a complex, different, diverse set of different EHRs, so that would contribute, obviously, to getting some more acceleration. But these further incentives, I think, will see us drive consistent onboarding of these different operators, under Sabra over the next 2 quarters. That's for sure. So quite excited around what we can do between now and the end of Q2.
And what are some of the key milestones and timing for the Traditions deployments, ALIS integration, the broader Matrix Care and Yardi integrations?
Yeah, great question again, David. I think Alice is quite exciting. We're getting quite close to that. So we're really in that sandbox and getting ready to push out to production in coming months. That will not only give us access to the Traditions first few sites, but potentially additional Traditions sites, but other sites we've signed across the US also waiting for that Alice integration. Yardi is another key milestone. Yardi is the integration partner of Silverado, which has obviously given us great influence for Yardi to accelerate these integration discussions. And they've got a very good foothold in the market as well. Matrix Care as well, another client of ours, is waiting for that integration. So that's slated for the end of Q2 and progressing quite well. But additionally, like I said, the other 2 main ones would be ECH, which we've got discussions kicking off this week, but also August Health. And they're pretty evenly spread across that A or memory care market, David. What's worth mentioning is that Point Click Care own pretty much that skilled nursing market across the North American market. So with these partnerships, as I said previously, we should have access to majority, if not all, the US long-term care market.
So a follow-up question has just come through. I'm trying to keep on top of them all. Once an integration is complete, how quickly can a customer realistically move to activation?
Yeah, it's a great question once again. Really quickly, David. So we're very mature. We've done this across, 30, 40 different care management systems, or EHRs, as we call them up north. So we're very versed in getting this ready, building it out, testing it, and then getting in the sandbox and deploying. Once we have got the integration working, we'll generally allow about 2 weeks to go, great, let's make sure that the data is flowing correctly. Let's make sure it's syncing before we deploy that to the provider. So it's not a great deal of time. We do allow generally 2 weeks to make that integration go live, but we can do that quicker as well. So not a great deal of time lapse whatsoever.
And Andy, has that been a real focus of the company in recent months, that speeding up that integration to activation time?
Yeah, I think it's even speeding up the entire process from contract signing through to cash collection has been accelerated, to be honest, David. And without getting too much into the weeds, but we've done a number of different things in order to enable that. One of the fundamental ones was we did some significant changes to the way that we contract with our clients. We actually built in incentives for our customers to actually lock in or commit to a date and actually be incentivized to go faster than that date. And we're now starting to see the real dividends from that contract change in seeing our clients implement super fast.
David, I'll throw another one to you. Everyone's very interested in contracts and status.
Of course.
Silverado and Aged Care begin pay pilots this month. What will each pilot test? How long do you expect the evaluation process to take? And what would a successful commercial conversion look like?
Yeah, I'm equally excited, David. And as Andy attested to before, we've got some great expertise how to make these successful. So that's really does give me a lot of confidence and excitement. I think a fair guesstimate on what the time frame evaluation will be between 6 and 9 months, David, could be sooner. The great thing about both of these providers is they believe in what we're doing. So they want this to work. We've got great investment from senior leadership to clinical leadership to operations. So they're very invested. Both contracted pretty swiftly and said, can we go live as soon as possible? We're going live in coming weeks, actually, across both providers. I think the 3 key buckets we're looking at as part of this pilot or paid engagement for a small subset of their homes would be really that first ROI bucket. So looking at those clinical outcomes, the appropriate use of medications, appropriate use of psychotropic medications, reduced falls, safeguarding incidents, the things we've seen with other large providers across the globe, they're very interested in as well. I think the second key thing, and this is not a new surprise there on this call, I'm sure, is the efficiencies of that integrations, those improved workflows, the less administrational burden. So those integrations across, obviously, point-click care for aged care and Yardi for Silverado will be vital to the success and ongoing engagement. And I think the staff impact is something that Karen touched on that I'm very quickly adapting to such a key focus in the United States market right now around the impact on carer, giving carers better skills and better tools to provide better care and do their jobs better, but also reduce that carer burden with such a scarce resource across Western aged care markets, really, to be transparent. So I think they're the 3 key buckets there, David. What does success look like? I think success looks like full-scale rollout across both of those large providers, which will result in about 12,000 licenses of ARR for PainChek.
Lil, we do have a number of questions on this topic, and it would be remiss of me not to say that you weren't expecting it, but where does reimbursement fit within the US commercial model, and how important is it to adoption and pricing?
Thanks, David. Yeah, that's been something very much on our mind over certainly the last couple of months that I've been in the company, taking a good, clear eye look at this. What we've identified looking at the pipeline is that our current pipeline priorities are not dependent on reimbursement. They are commercial contracts. There's another group of prospective customers in the pipeline that do make great use of CPT codes. Now, we've identified that existing CPT codes that we already have access to is going to meet the vast majority of that need. So one of the things we will be tasking Karen to do, we'll want Karen to focus on, is to look through, the relationship between these other routes to market and existing CPT codes. We are very much focused on what is the path of least resistance to get ourselves into a market. Going on the previous statements, conversations PainChek has had around having our own CPT code, do want to share with shareholders that CMS is going through a really radical redesign around remote teleservices and other care models in terms of their CPT codes. It really is not good use of our resources, which are scarce and need to be focused, for us to put further effort into pushing for our own CPT code at this moment, given the fact that there is going to be a new structure, and we'll look at it hopefully in January. The likely shift of CMS is that there's going to be more emphasis on prevention. That's becoming a clear message. Now that's very much in our wheelhouse. So when we're looking at pursuing under the new model a potential CPT code, it will be much more in our comfort zone. But do want to let shareholders know that this is not in any way impacting our pipeline or impacting our financial year 27 priorities. And we will let shareholders know as we get more news from CMS on the direction that they're going. We're hoping there'll be more, light thrown on that by then in January.
David, a couple of questions come through around reference sites. Are you seeing, or are a number of the groups that you're now working with showing interest to be a reference site? And what does that mean, and why is it important?
Definitely, David. I think we're very lucky that our client, Drew's Home Family, Carol Silver Elliott, their Sarah, has been so supportive and happy to be a reference site. But I think what's key is that they've seen brilliant outcomes from the implementation of our technology. They've seen a significant reduction in the use of psychotropic medications, a reduction in falls, and an increase in weight going on some of their residents, which is fantastic. A lot of our initial Canadian sites are contractually reference sites. They've seen great outcomes and happy to be reference sites across the North American market. And obviously looking at other great providers like Silverado are very much going, we want this to work. We're happy to be a reference site. We want to work with you. So I think in my experience in new markets, you really want to build those foundational clients to be partnerships, because those partnerships do behoove you to accelerate. No one's better than promoting our products and our business than our clients that are really happy and have seen great outcomes from the utility of our technology. So vitally important to our success.
Karen, a question for you. You formally commence on the 17th of August. What will be your priorities during your first 90 days, and what should investors expect to see change first?
I think that's a great question. I believe that is the acceleration of our pipeline. It's the focus on North America and our other regions. Lil and I talk so much about proof of the Saber relationship, proof of the late stage pipe that turns not into just contracted commercial clients, but reference sites for us too. Because of my experience in healthcare, my deep knowledge in bringing products to market in the US healthcare system, other clients want to purchase solutions that look like their facilities, operators who have the same challenges that Saber may have around how do I reduce the risk around my residents falling? How do I reduce the amount of medication? Those same challenges are prevalent across the market. And how do we help our pipeline, our next set of clients be able to achieve those same types of outcomes? And what David had talked about a couple of minutes ago around what his early pilots are seeing, those outcomes, to be able to capitalize on that. For me, this is about our growth trajectory, the proof points there in the North American markets and supporting the other regions. And that's why I'm, again, so excited to be a part of the company.
And what operational metric will you be focused on, and how will that tell you and the wider team that the commercial model is gaining pace?
So it's a couple of things. That's great questions, and it's still early days. I start next week. Um, and as Lil said, I'll work that out at the board. But I always think about things as what is the market from our total addressable market to our service addressable market to our service obtainable market. From there, what pipe are we growing and what is our basically our starting to get to our win rate. So I'll look at our total pipe, how fast are we moving that pipe through our marketing efforts, through our closing efforts, through our implementation. I see another piece of building out, besides the referenceability with the great work that Carol has been doing to support PainChek in North America and specifically the United States. But how do we build out our medical advisory board, where they start to help us, do market qualified leads, webinars, and that to really build that early stage pipe, as well as then, helping with the closing of that. So for us, it's about how do we start to really continue to achieve that double-digit growth coming, through 2027 and beyond. So my focus is commercialization. In that way is through, again, like I said, building a great strategic marketing, building pipe, because you want about 3x pipe to be able to hit your metrics. How do you build out a medical advisory board and then that referenceability to be able to support that next level of clients that we will achieve?
Lil, probably a question for you. A couple of questions in this regard. The company has restructured sales, added business development resources, established a global marketing role, and is reviewing technology. How will you and the board and the executive team ensure these changes translate into revenue rather than simply adding cost?
That's a really, really big focus that I have and that the board has. We are going to be really sharp on our costs, David. A lot of the things that you've talked about has been repositioning rather than hiring. So Andy has gone through the company. We've identified people who have great skills that we need to deploy, but they're in the wrong place. They're doing the wrong job. They're focused on the wrong things. So it's not about going out and hiring a whole bunch of people. It's about identifying the talent in the company, which is there, and putting it to task in the right place. So yes, we have made changes in terms of a number of areas, but that doesn't mean to say we've been adding costs. In actual fact, we have been trying to reduce cost. Now, some of that is just, real small, line by line, line by line, line by line, identifying what we're spending money on. Is it serving the purpose of our short to mid-term goals? If the answer is yes, it stays. If the answer is no, it goes. So we are, adding effort into areas we think are important, and we will invest further in those efforts if we believe it's going to lead to the short to mid-term. So it's very, very focused view of cash. It's not spending it on an opportunist way. It's spending it in a really focused way and looking at how we make use of existing assets and resources in the company to, get that job done.
And just a question, just a follow-up question. I'm sort of trying to keep on across them all. You talked about making decisions quickly. What sort of decision gates will be used to continue to redirect or stop investment?
Yeah, and that absolutely is one of the areas that we as a board are going to sit through and work out with Karen. That conversation has started, but it'll focus with Karen from the day that she arrives. I'm a big fan of this kind of approach, and really it's a very risk approach to spending of our assets and monitoring our progress. So having decision gates around investments. When do we expect we will get to this first gate? What is the no-go signal at that first gate? And being really rigorous with this team that's here today of, Karen used the word proof earlier on. We are going to regularly as a board say to them, you asked for this investment. What's the first step? What's the first proof point? Let's see if that's successful or not. We believe most of the ones we've identified will be successful, but we'll not hit 100% success rate. So we look at the proof point, we learn. Some things will get cut, some things will be amended and redesigned, but we'll go forward in a very risk-based database analysis.
Question here just in regards, and you may not want to answer it because I don't want to put you into a position where you're forecasting, but do you have a view on cash flow positive and the goal to reach that? Is there a timeline? Is there a metric that you're focused on that will transition the company into that position?
It certainly wouldn't be fair for me to have that conversation with shareholders at this stage before Karen's actually joined the company. So I'm not going to do that because we will be discussing that with Karen and the board and the senior team. What I would say though is everything you've heard today from every member of the team has been on how do we execute on our pipeline? How do we convert that pipeline into business? How do we implement it quickly and get revenue flowing? How do we, get customer success so they're delighted with us and they reference us to their peers? That's the pathway to growth. Our job is to make sure that happens with pace. And as you said before, that the way we use our cash is focused on that, and we are good stewards of shareholder assets. They're the things which will get us to cash flow neutral, cash flow positive. And as I said earlier, what we are working towards is our first quarter like that.
And Andy, I'm similarly not trying to throw you under the regulatory bus here, but net operating cash outflow improved to 1.791 million, but the quarterly report cautions that not all cost reductions are permanent. How should investors think about the near-term cost base and the balance between growth investment and cash discipline?
Yeah, so I'd say that just to echo some of Lil's sentiments, which is she and the board made it very clear to myself and to the executive team that we were to undertake a really quick and smart review of all the projects in the business, the roles in the business and how things were structured, and make some decisions even before Karen was to start, and obviously in consultation with the board. And so we've been busily going about that over the last 8 weeks or so. And we have made some really, I think, we've uncovered areas of the business where we can deprioritize things that will actually have an impact on the budget. And so, yeah, I can give confidence that we've already started making those decisions. But then also I would then also reinforce what Lil said. I do think there's even more fundamental things that we could address as soon as Karen comes in the business. And I think that we'll be working through those imminently, given that she starts in a little over a week.
Karen, if we reconvene in 6 months, what evidence would demonstrate that PainChek is executing successfully?
I think that's a great question. And we've talked about it. So it's about proof in our key regions. It's about continued improvement in our metrics about retention. It's about closing these key commercial deals that David is working on now with the team, generating that into revenue, and really continuing to outline and articulate our key priorities that are around growth and proof points in our key markets. And to talk about what Lil said is, and the framework that I think about is, what market are we doing? What is that entry to that market? What are those solutions and what is our channel? And putting the business cases to them that we can actually accelerate and give the growth back to the business to get to that cash flow neutral and cash flow positive. Those key market growth drivers of our solutions within PainChek.
And it may be hard for you to answer this question, given you're literally days away from formally starting. So I might throw it to Lil, but from a shareholder point of view, what are the measures, the two or three measures that shareholders should watch most closely over the next two quarters? Apologies.
I
Lil,
hope
do you want to grab that
shareholders,
one?
I hope shareholders have got a bit of a sense of what we think is important from the last quarterly. Because we gave a real focus on revenue. We've got loads of opportunity in the company. We've got a good pipeline, but what we want to talk to shareholders about is, the word Karen used, proof points. So we're wanting to talk to shareholders about what revenue we achieve, how we do it. We will be asking Karen and the team to give updates on, what Karen just said, that selling is a process and it's clearly defined. It's specific to a particular market, a particular sector, but it's a process that we need to get understanding about for this sector, or greater understanding, because we're already there. And a real clear, eye on step. Karen, happy for you to add.
No, I think that was perfect. Again, just we are going to have our eye on growth, repeatable growth, and scaling commercialization. It's really here on the slide that we've been have. How do we retain our clients and expand upon our client base? How do we really put fire under that North American commercial engine that we have between Sabra and the other landmark clients that are coming into the portfolio? Being very disciplined about our investment, thinking about the markets we're going at, what value we can create in those markets, answer those challenges, give that payback within 9 months, which is certainly expected within the US market, whether in the acute, in the long-term care, the skilled nursing, and the pipeline we have, take unfair advantage of converting that pipeline as quickly as possible through smart marketing, through great commercial execution that I know David and Andy will do.
Last few questions, but probably an obvious question that has come through from a number of people. The business has clearly evolved. It's made a number of changes and made a number of structural changes and people changes, and a real focus, as you said, Lil, on revenue. But how will the company translate this effort to broad capital market recognition? Obviously, the share price is where it is, market capitalization is where it is, but what do you think needs to be done from a company outward-facing point of view to bring the market along to the journey that the company's on and aiming to hit the goals that it's aiming to hit?
A couple of answers to that, David. One of which is what we're doing today. We will have more visibility with the market, I promise you that. I've already had conversations with individual shareholders. I'm very happy to engage with people. That, is a big part of my job, to make sure that shareholders understand what's going on. The other thing is, we've introduced the leadership team to shareholders today. We'll continue to draw upon that. These are the people who have in-depth understanding of what's happening on the ground. And they're also very, very happy to answer questions, to respond. So the first part of it is, we will keep the market informed. Absolutely listen to it. And the other is, the word that we've used throughout, or words that we've used throughout this session, about execution and proof points. That's what the market wants to see. Yeah, we've got great, long-term opportunities, but we're going to talk to you at this point in time about delivering on our short to mid-term pipeline.
Just on that last couple of questions for each of you, we're pretty much exhausted the time we had available. We've got through a lot of questions, but a last couple for each of you. Andy, how much of the current growth opportunity lies in winning new customers versus expanding deployment within existing groups?
Look, I think it definitely is a bit of both. The one example we had on the very first slide, which was Catholic Healthcare, which is now our largest home care client. We've been trying to tackle the home care market for a while. It's taken that market a while to adopt clinical practices, longer than we thought. But here is a client that's well over 1,200 packages that is, really at the forefront of the industry in adopting PainChek in the home care industry, and that is they're using it in the residential or the rack business, and now also in the home care business. So it's a wonderful cross sell, and so I think that will always be really important to our strategy. Our clients who operate in different parts of the market, but I don't think we can underplay just how important it is for us to grow our new pipeline, particularly in our emerging markets. You've heard a lot of emphasis today on the US and Canadian market, and also, of course, continuing to grow in the UK market as well. So I do think it's a combination of both, but with a really large focus on our new business.
David, what additional people, integrations, or evidence are required before the North American operation can scale efficiently?
Yeah, great question, David. I don't think we're that far away. I think we've got. I think Karen's expertise are going to be invaluable with the knowledge and just that marketing engine she brings from such great success in previous roles. We've got an additional BDR joining the business. It's really going to try to load up the front of that top of that pipeline, so things get down to the sales team more qualified to accelerate the obviously sale and the execution of those agreements that we can implement in market as well. We've got a great little team up here. We're looking at building as we go and retain and acquire new clients as well and keep expanding. But also, as the team said today, looking at pointed skills to bolster our efforts so we can make the boat go faster. How do we get to market quicker, sales faster, revenue generation? I think that's the key team. And I think Karen's going to have a great fresh lens on what that US market needs in regards to potential redeployment or additional resources. But I think to your point, the integrations I'm really pleased about. I think I've really taken care of trying to accelerate those over the last couple of months, and there has been some great milestones. So I think I saw this in the ANZ market with Andy in the early 2020s, where we got really great momentum with the CMS providers back home, care management systems, not to be confused with electronic health records, these different acronyms. And we're getting to that point going, okay, we've got all the major players right now, either in integration partnerships development phase or in negotiating how to do so as well, which we just know is key to our success in regards to the workflows and those real impactful clinical workflows for clinicians in providing better care. So I'm really happy where that is. There's a lot of work to be done in that space between now and, say, Christmas, but I think we've got great courage, and that's a key milestone, as we know we've seen across the UK and ANZ as well. So very comfortable where that is progressing at this stage.
I'm going to leave the final question or comment to Karen. As you prepare to formally commence as CEO next week, could I ask you for a brief closing comment on the opportunity you see ahead for PainChek?
I could never be more excited working with such a terrific senior leadership team and a board under the leadership of Lil to be able to really bring the PainChek app continued growth and expansion across the key markets that we have, whether it's in ANZ, continuing that foundation, the work that we've been doing in UKI, and the growth that I just see happening in North America under David's leadership. There's just simple foundational things that we can do to drive success. The retention of our current base, expanding that, driving North American growth with the key partnerships that we have with Sabra, Silverado, up and coming with Mayo that we'll continue to talk about, making the right decisions on our investment for what's next, and really driving growth and showing all of you as our key investors just the proof that we have of just the wonderful products that we're bringing to market within PainChek. It's a pleasure to be, at the helm starting next week with such a terrific team.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you, Lil, Andy, and David for joining us today.
Thank you, David.
Pleasure,
The
David.
key
Thank you.
messages from this update are that PainChek enters its next phase with a growing implemented recurring revenue base, a significant North American opportunity supported by FDA clearance and the Sabra model, and a leadership team focused on converting commercial opportunity into active licenses and revenue. Thank you to all the shareholders who participated today. For everyone who sent in questions, we got through as many as we possibly could. We grouped as many as we possibly could. And for those that we didn't get to, we will ensure they are all answered after this presentation has finished. A recording of today's webinar will be made available shortly to everyone who registered. But have a great day and thanks, everybody.